Kindy Manager, Philip Heldon speaking. In this tutorial we're going to be looking at how to claim your inclusion support under the new C19 subsidy system, which has replaced the CCS for a short time. The first thing we're going to need to do is do an update on your Kindy Manager, make sure you're on the right version. Then we're going to show you how to validate the attendances, so the enrollment IDs are present, the validating of your inclusion support records. We're going to then upload, and then we're going to synchronize and query the claims to make sure that it's all gone up. Let's start by updating the Kindy Manager from our website, going to the download page, checking that the version number and the date are corresponding with what you have. If they don't, you'll need to run this update. But downloading the file and running it, you'll come through and you're just going to select update only unless you want a full installation. You'll just leave it as it is. Take the tick off the icon option because you probably don't need a second one. Some people end up with two icons. That'll be why. When you do an update, you just haven't removed the tick. And once you're finished, you're going to sign in. Oh, okay, you get a tick first. They're well done. And we're going to sign in now. And we're going to make sure that we are on the same version that you saw on the web page. Right, once we've got that, we're up and running. All right, so we're going to go through two scenarios. The first one's going to be simply as the checklist suggests. We're going to do everything correctly. So we're going to first of all validate the attendances. Now I know you're not going to upload them, but we still do need to validate the attendances because inclusion support records and case IDs are linked via the enrollment ID. So this validation process actually checks that every single attendance has an enrollment. If for some reason the enrollment IDs are not been assigned, perhaps the parents have only confirmed their enrollment after you've generated, or for some reason you've created the enrollment after you've generated. So that has to be done, and when you've done that you get a tick. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is validate the inclusion support or case IDs against the attendances. So the first one was to check your enrollment ID. This one is to validate the case ID. And so here we've got a number of case IDs and a number of warnings which you will ignore because it's only telling you they haven't been uploaded. And we know that to be true. We're not going to remove that warning. We're just going to leave it there and you're going to ignore it for this period of time. Well done, another tick. Okay, so let's go to upload the inclusion support. So now we're going to enter in the week number. And that will give you a week ending. We're just going to use the standard subsidy centre based care, and under the service provision you're always going to put non-face-to-face. That is how the inclusion support system has been able to handle the fact that we're no longer uploading attendances. They also got caught with a few items down around their ankles when the government made this announcement, and they've only just made that adjustment. So now we can see that the days have been allocated both an enrollment ID and a case ID, and we need to allocate the educator before we simply go ahead and upload the claim, which we've done, and well done. Now, before you get excited and say, well, look, that was so easy, we're not going to quite give you the tick yet. We're going to go through another little scenario where it didn't quite go as smooth. So we've got a little bit more sample data here. In this particular case, we have got 5 days a week and we've added in 6 hours a day for the inclusion support. So thinking that we've done all we need to do and very pleased with ourselves, we will now go ahead and upload our inclusion support. With a slight difference here. We've been told that, of course, we need to validate the attendances, but we forgot to do that. So we're going to go and skip that portion there, and we are going to go and try and upload our inclusion support directly, putting in the week number. And we find that while we do have a case, we have no attendances. And we think, well, that's not true because I've just seen the attendances in the account screen along with the hours. Now we have missed the point of validating those records with an enrolment ID. So let's go back and do it properly. First of all, attendances, and we're going to validate the attendances. Because these inclusion support records are linked via an enrolment ID, you'll see when you query your inclusion support, in this screen you might see the inclusion support here, it's linked via an enrolment ID, but you might also see some records when you synchronize have been made inactive and a new one made active with a lot of hours under the non-face-to-face. Inclusion support very rarely modify a record, they often just make the current records inactive and create new ones. Another good reason to do your validation. Alright, so we are only validating these records now for inclusion support. If you do not have inclusion support, the validation of the attendances is not necessary. But here we see now we do have attendances and the enrolment ID has been assigned to these records. Okay, so that's going to help us when we do go back and try and validate our inclusion support. Let's go back now and do it correctly. We're going to validate this now. This time we should find that we have both a case ID and we should have records, and we do. Okay, along with our warning, yes, we know at this point we don't have to upload these records like we normally did. I'm not going to take that warning out. I'm going to leave the different warning colors and messages there because we're only going to have to reverse all of that work when we switch back. Okay, so let's try and upload these inclusion support records now. We're going to have a bit more success. We'll actually get to see them. Now, we're just going to put in the week number. Don't forget, they're going to always be non-face-to-face. They will not go up as face-to-face. So let's put in the standard. Now, in this particular case, I need to assign an educator, and I don't have an educator in the sample data. So what we might need to do, and if you don't have an educator, you'll need to go up to the CC account option and look at the personnel. So notice here I don't have anyone. So I'm going to abandon that for a second. We're going to go up to CCS accounts, come down to personnel, and we're going to flag one of our users as an inclusion support educator. Not that this gentleman's qualified to do it, but we're going to flag him anyway. And off we go. So now I need to refresh the screen. I'm just going to close it here and then open it up again. And we're going to fill all those bits and pieces in there. So it's not always going to be seamless, and a few things might go wrong. For example, if you don't put the right week number in, you won't get any records. So let's correct that mistake. We didn't have an educator, we hadn't validated the records right. So all of these things then can be fixed, and we're just going to allocate an educator. I'll speed this up a little bit, fast forward. There you go. And we would agree to everything because we're very agreeable people, and you would upload that in the normal way. Once again, the colors are there, and you can see down on the ledger it's just saying these are pink because they have not been uploaded. Again, we know, thanks for the warning, we're going to leave it there, and as long as you don't panic about it, it'll be fine. All right. Now at this point, you have earned another tick, so we're going to tick off that option there. We've uploaded it. Now let's have a look at going back and querying those inclusion support claims to make sure that they've gone up. So let's have a look and to check the status. Now when we synchronize this, we should find that the status is simply submitted. Tomorrow, I want you to go back and query this again because we'd like to see the status changed to processed. Okay, and once it's been processed, we'll then go and look for the money in the bank, of course. Now, having done that, you've earned yourself the final tick, and that completes your checklist. And just finally, a quick recap on what we've covered. First of all, every case ID, inclusion support case ID, is connected to the children via their enrolment ID, and you may find that the inclusion support team have created new case IDs with the extended non-face-to-face hours. So that's a particularly good reason in itself to make sure that all your validations are done correctly, and that while the original case ID may have been valid, the new case IDs need to be assigned to these records. Each record has to have an enrolment ID, each record has to have a case ID, and this is where you'll pick up the new case IDs if they've been allocated with their new non-face-to-face hours. All claims are non-face-to-face while the new C19 funding is in place. And the following day, after you've uploaded, go back and do a query on those particular inclusion support claims just to make sure that the status of submitted turns into processed. Now, just a quick footnote here. Finally, public holidays cannot be claimed simply because no educator was employed to look after the children that didn't attend. You may still, of course, for example, Easter Friday, Monday, process the records as in generating the fees, marking them as absence, but you do need to go back and remove the inclusion support hours from those Friday children or from those Monday children for any public holidays before you upload the inclusion support. They cannot be claimed for public holidays. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this tutorial. I trust some of this information has been useful, and we'll look forward to talking to you on the next tutorial. Thank you.